We'll get started. All right. So, hello everybody. Welcome. We are going to go ahead and get started with our classroom stories live. I'm Nancy Williams. I'm a partner success manager with ASSISTments. But today is really not about me. It is about the teachers that are here to prevent that are to present that are out in the field who are using ASSISTments every day in practical, creative ways to support their students. For myself, I am a teacher, an ex-teacher right now, but always a teacher at heart. Um, and right now, I work for Assessments doing coaching and helping educators across the country, as well as in Maryland, to train them on how to use assessments as part of their own practice. So, previous to that, I was a math teacher in DC, in Chicago, and Columbus, Ohio. So I have been there with all of you, but I'm super duper excited to hear from our teachers today. So, just a little icebreaker. And like I said, even if you're a presenter, you can definitely participate. So, every teacher has one thing they do that works like magic. In the chat, or there's only a few of us, if you want to come off mute and talk to me, that's fine too. I love to talk to people. What is your superpower? So maybe it's, your teacher look with your eyebrow, or maybe it's getting 30 Chromebooks to work all at once. You can either drop it in the chat or come off mute, and I would love to hear those things. I can make a room of 31 children not speak for 75 minutes straight. Oh, I love that. Finding out what a student is interested in and harnessing that energy. Yes. Get them interested in what we're teaching. They're much more likely to pay attention and learn what you're trying to teach them. I love that. Transitions and routines. Caitlin, I was always like the routine queen too. It was like if there have another educator was having trouble with behavior or anything like that. I was like, we got to get into a routine that helps. They thrive on routine. Listening to the students and helping them get into the right mindset, ready to learn. I love that as well. Mindset is a huge thing when we are teaching. They have to be in that growth mindset to be able to learn. Otherwise, it just doesn't go anywhere. So, love that. Thank you. Little bit of housekeeping as we go forward. Oh, something happened. I lost you guys. There we go. Instruments. My mouse is having a little bit of trouble. I apologize. It's not hitting. There we go. Um, like I said, a little bit of housekeeping. Everybody here and everybody who registered for the session will receive a PDF copy of the slide deck as well as a recording. So you don't have to worry about taking notes or anything of that sort. It will actually be sent to you so you can kind of just sit back and enjoy and listen to what our presenters have for you today. Our goal for today is to highlight how real teachers in the classroom are using assessments as a formative assessment tool and in other ways to make instruction more responsive and efficient. A hope for today is that you'll walk away with at least one strategy or idea that you can bring into your classroom right away. So, something you could start tomorrow or Monday if you wanted. There's Brandy. All right, so let's look at our agenda for today. We're going to start with just a quick overview of assessments. If anybody is new to assessments, just quickly what it is. Um, then we're going to head into hearing from our teacher presenters and how they've built routines around using assessments in their classroom to meet their students' needs. Then we'll finish with a question and answer, a couple of resources from assessments, and we will wrap up from there. All right. And I apologize, my computer is not working exactly the way that I want it to. What is assessments? For anybody new, it is a curriculum connected assessment solution. It is embedded and formative assessment. So that is really our wheelhouse at ASSISTments. Um, it is for daily instruction. It gives students immediate feedback and it gives teachers real-time data without them having to sit and grade stacks of paper. So it helps for teachers to make instructional decisions right in the moment while they're with students instead of having to wait several days to grade those papers and get that data. So they get instant data, they can make instructional decisions right there. And of course, that then helps our students move forward, not having to wait to get that feedback from their educators. Okay. Um, it is connected to several core curricula. It is aligned directly with IM 360 as well as illustrative math, Eureka math, and open up resources. But it also has a lot of supplemental content. So if you are not using one of those high quality instructional materials, you can still use assessments in a very effective way. There's skill builders, which are for very targeted practice around a particular skill. There are problem solving sets for extra support if there is a skill or standard that you need some extra questions for students who may be struggling or for students who need a little push forward. And then there are release state tests as well within the platform that if your students need a little bit of practice around these problems, um, they can get that because I know sometimes that state test looks very different than what they're used to. So they can use assessments to practice for that. So even if you're not using one of those curriculums, it's definitely a tool that can be very helpful instruction. And for all of those things, you get that instant data as a teacher, so you can provide that feedback very quickly for your students. And just a couple challenges, and we're going to see our um, teachers actually present around most of these things as well. So one of the things that we definitely struggle with as teachers, giving students immediate feedback, like we've talked about. Um, it also collects, it makes it easy for us to collect and use data without getting buried in that grading. And then it also makes it very quick to find differentiated practice for students. So assessments allows you to assign to small groups, to individuals, or whole class so that you can find that practice very easily and assign it to those needed groups without having to go onto Google and try to find extra resources. It's all right there built within the platform. So, and all of our presenters have actually used all of these things. You'll see all of them throughout our presentation today. They've built these very sustainable routines around these very challenges using assessments. All right, so I am now going to head into our presenters. All right. So today for you, I have Brandy Lance, who is a sixth grade accelerated math and sixth grade science teacher, coming to us from Lincoln Intermediate in Mason City, Iowa. And she is right in the middle of parent teacher conferences as well. So she is a superstar. Well, you're all superstars, but she's right in the middle of parent teacher conferences. um, Dylan Brumley, who's a seventh and eighth grade math coach or math teacher in Cedarville Middle School in Cedarville, Arkansas, and Sarah Duty, who is right here in Maryland with ASSISTments, who teaches accelerated sixth and seventh grade math at Lansdowne Middle School, which is part of Baltimore County Public Schools. Okay, so just one thing before I hand it over. As you are watching them present, I know we have a couple people here live. If you do have any questions while they are presenting, go ahead and just drop them in the chat. I'm going to facilitate a Q&A after they present, and I'll be happy to ask them those questions in the chat once we get to that Q&A portion. Okay, so I'll keep track of those. So, I am now going to hand it over to Brandy. Brandy, you there?
I'm here.
There you are. So just let me know. I'll continue to just go through, and I can also demo anything. I have that ready up and ready to go as well.
Okay.
As you're talking, if there's anything we want to look at that way. So just let me know. And I'm going to go on mute, and it is all to you.
Okay. Lincoln Intermediate in Mason City, Iowa. Our building is just an intermediate building, so it's just fifth and sixth grade in it. And my sixth grade math team is amazing. There's five teachers for our sixth grade math and science team. And I am the only one that teaches the accelerated math from those, but the other teachers all also use ASSISTments as well. Not quite as much as me. I'm trying to change that. We use illustrative math for our math curriculum, and then for science curriculum, we use lab aids. Go to the next slide. So for cool downs, I assign them at the end of every lesson. They complete them in class. They are graded. The responses are reviewed before the next class to decide if I need to readdress anything. Sometimes if I can get them looked at quickly before they even leave, I might even make those corrections, try to clarify some things before they even leave for the day, before they move on to their practice problems, which I also assign after each lesson. I do not grade the practice problems. I want them to use that opportunity to demonstrate what they've learned, to use those hints that are available to them. Sometimes those hints are enough to clarify what their questions were. And I don't want them to think that using a hint, oh, my grade's going to go down. I don't want to use the hint. So I want them to feel comfortable using those. So I don't grade them. I do require that if they want to do any corrections on the test, that they do have to have all the practice problems completed at that time then. And then I use the reports to adjust my instruction. I might look and say, oh, like everybody did really well with this. I'm good with that. But, oh, this one, I had a lot of zeros on that one, or a lot of people had to ask for hints. So what do I need to clarify to moving forward? So I use it just to guide my instruction before the next lesson. So my problem of practice is, how can students who prefer paper and pencil still use ASSISTments? I have several students that do prefer paper and pencil, or sometimes they don't have a lot of help at home though, but they want to do it on paper pencil. So I have them open up ASSISTments on their computer or iPad, whatever device they have. If it's at school, it's a computer, a Chromebook, but otherwise, if they have a device at home, I have them open that up, and then they open their workbooks up, and then they can do it right along with. And so then when they get to a spot and they're like, oh, I'm really confused, I don't know like what I need to do here or what to do next, then they can click for that hint. And then after they, if they need that, they can use it. Then when they get done, they can check their answers, because I don't want to do all the work and then not have it done. And then I have to go back and grade it. ASSISTments is great at it, just auto corrects that for me. I love also that they can do it on paper and then just like hold up in front of the screen and take a picture of their work to show me how did they process through that, and still be able to do that on paper. So they do the problems, like on this one, they were to find the area of the triangle. So they might work it out and like label their base and their height on paper, but maybe they're struggling with that. So then I would have them click on the hint. It's like the hint for that first one is to find it. You multiply the base times the height and then divide by 2. And so that just sometimes will just remind them, oh yeah, okay, now I got to look back and see what was that base and what was that height, and work forward from there. So then when they complete the problem, they put it in. Like you can see this person, they put the answer in. They were incorrect the first time. So then they asked for that hint. That's what the little triangle tells me, that then they asked for the hint. And then they got the answer correct. So they gave them the check mark saying that it was right. I liked also, I didn't put this on there. Now looking back, I probably should have. But I can click and see how long did they try before they clicked that hint. Like, did they give it some, did they give it a good try or did they not? I can see the total time that they spent on the right there on the screen, and that's the total time they spent. If you click on the student, I believe it tells you that like when they started the problem, then you click the little caret thing on the right, and it tells you like that they spent 1 minute and 56 seconds and answered it incorrectly, and then they spent 14 seconds fixing it and then answered it correctly. So I do like that. It tells me a lot of information. It also gives them a lot of information. It gives them opportunities to get the help that they do need. If you click to the next slide, I think that's my one that shows like, so that's them. This is a different problem, but if I ask for them to show their work or explain their reasoning, they can just take a picture of what they did and then submit it so I can see exactly like, did they do what I was expecting? Did they not? What do I need to address? And then I can pull that problem up on the board the next day. I have a Promethean board and I can just pull it up and show them like, this is, you know, and I can pull up everybody's and anonymize it and say, we can look at everybody's um, things to see, did we have common mistakes or things like that as well. If it's a automatically graded one, it will tell you like common, I think I'm gonna see that in my next little blurb, but it might tell you what like what the common mistakes were. But so then my next problem of practice, I can, sorry.
I was trying to find it and I got off the data, so I was trying to go back to my data here. See if it's close enough. Um, so here are your common wrong answers.
Yes.
You're trying to show. I apologize, Brandy.
No, that's fine.
So that was there. The other thing I did want to show too is Brandy talked a lot about hints. And so I just wanted to show real quick what that would look like from the student side. So if we go in to something like practice problems, I'm going to go ahead and preview this as a student. A student can push here, get help, and it can, this one's going to give them an explanation. Um, I'm sorry, what is, some of them do say request hint like this one. So when they hit that, it's going to give them that little blurb, like Brandy was talking about, a little math information to help them out. So that is what the students are going to experience while they're going through the problems. So you had incredible pictures, but just in case you wanted to see it,
Yep.
and in the actual platform, that is what it looks like from the student side. All right, back to
The,
you.
my next problem of practice is how can the data that we collect from our cool downs help guide our future instruction? So I kind of touched a little about that, but on the next slide, I think I have, this is from one of my things, and this was one that students obviously struggled with. And so I can look and see, and I anonymized this. I like to do that where I pull it up in front of the students and they don't know whose grade is whose or anything like that, but we can look and see like what did people do, where were the mistakes made, so we can try to clarify some of those things. And then it tells me the common wrong answers. I think on the next slide, yeah, so that's like where it tells me like a common, like for this problem one, this was like 20% of the students had this wrong answer. And so that one maybe wasn't the best example, but I can see where things, like where they did make mistakes, and then I can help clear those up um, moving forward. So I use that data a lot, even if it's not a graded thing. Like I said, even though those practice problems, I don't grade them. It lets me see if they had to, did lots of people have to use a hint? Because if a lot of people had to use a hint, I probably have something different that I need to do on my instruction side of things. So it really helps me decide where do we need to go next? What do I need to change or do different? So then, after implementing the paper and pencil use with ASSISTments, I found that allows them to help to get the help that they need when I'm not available. If I'm not readily available, especially when they're at home, for people who do have access at home. But even when they're, if there's time and, throughout the day when they're working and I'm not readily available to help them, they can still get the help that they need. Help clarify some of those things, and allow them to work through the problems and keep them on track so they're not just continually doing something wrong. It also allowed them to check their answers. So again, I don't want them to do all this work, get the wrong answer, and not realize that they made a mistake somewhere. We talk about that mistakes are how we learn, and that those mistakes can help us with that. Then I think my next one was, yeah, so after analyze for the cooldowns to use the data to inform instruction, after analyzing the data, I do it in a timely manner. I try to do it, like I said, as they're leaving, like as they're doing the cool downs, I'm trying to correct them and look and see what the students are doing so I can help clear up any misunderstandings. Or at the very beginning of the next class period, I can go through those and like we go over the cool down from the day before, and then I can just readily fix that, see if there's anything else that I need to go to from there, and then readdress things as needed. Um, Next slide, mine too.
Don't think so. What I was going to do is just show how to anonymize that data
Okay.
quick, because that is a great point and definitely one if you want to have conversations after those cool downs with your students. So just a quick way, we're back on this assignment report, which comes up after a practice problem or cool down assignment for the educator. You would go here to this show hide, and all it takes is to untoggle this name here and it randomizes and anonymizes. So if you have a student who knows they are number one all the time, they are no longer number one. So you can have class discussion without anybody knowing anybody else's score or how they did. So it's a great point, Brandy. Thank you for bringing that up. It's a great way for those misconceptions and next day's conversation. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing. That was awesome. Oh, you did have one more side. Go ahead. I apologize.
That's all right. Um,
Hate to
Students
miss my thought.
appreciate when I show them how, and I actually have done it tonight with some of the parents at my conferences. I've pulled up assessments. I've showed them how it is. I have the book open. I show them that the questions are the exact same. They aren't different. The students are appreciating the opportunity to be able to do things on paper, but still get help and reinforcement that they need to be successful. And then they like getting that feedback right away. And when I was doing paper copies of all the cool downs, it was just, I mean, right now I have 77 students that I think are in my two classes every day. And then I have 5 children of my own at home. So I didn't have time to take all 77 of these papers and go through them. And I just wasn't doing it in a timely fashion. Now, when I can just pull it up, look at all of this question, grade it, look at all the next question and grade it and get it done fast. And then I can help them the next day. They are appreciating that and getting more clarity and they feel more confident moving forward. So that's it.
Thank you so much. I love the responsiveness. That's incredible for kids to get that feedback so quickly. And we've got a little hooray from SpongeBob down here for impact. All right, so we're going to move to Dylan.
Hello, yeah, my name is Dylan Brumley. I'm the 7th and 8th grade math teacher at Cedarville Middle School in Cedarville, Arkansas. We're a very small rural community in far western Arkansas. Um, I'm the only 7th and 8th grade math teacher in my building, so all of the students come to me for 7th and 8th grade math instruction. My school district probably averages about anywhere from 50 to 60 students per grade. So I have currently about 100 students that I teach. We're a small rural Title I 100% free reduced lunch school district for all of our students. Um, so, and I'm also a second career educator. I kind of came to teaching after making some career moves. I kind of knew I was going to be a teacher eventually, and my mom's a retired teacher, and I figured I would be too. So this is my 5th year teaching. I would say that without assistants and without kind of accidentally discovering assistants, my job as a teacher would be a lot more difficult. I also really struggle with papers and organizing paperwork, and having to grade people's stuff in a timely manner is like my worst nightmare. So everything that Brandy spoke about on her end of the presentation is going to be a lot of the stuff I'm going to reinforce as well. So if we're ready for the next slide. Um, my routines with assessments follow a lot of the same things that Brandy spoke about. I assign the cool downs for our IM V360 curriculum at the end of lessons. I give out practice problem sets at the end of every lesson as well. For me, part of my routines with assessments, when our practice problem sets have written response questions, I too will anonymize the student names and data and use those open response questions to help drive my student discussions and discourse in class the next day, often to help students understand like exemplar responses, what constitutes a level 4 grade, what constitutes a level 1 grade, and what are the differences between those. And I also utilize the skill builders resource for my RTI, response to intervention time in class. So one of the major benefits that I find with using ASSISTments is its ability to help me provide the accommodations for 504s and IEPs, in the sense that some of my students have the reduced workload accommodation on their IEP or 504 plans. And as their educator, I should be doing everything in my power to meet those accommodations and provide them the equity that they need in the classroom to be successful. But just because they have this reduced workload accommodation doesn't mean that the work should still not be rigorous and challenging for them. So, one thing that I have found ASSISTments to be useful for is the ability to create and customize your practice problem sets or assignments for those students. Um, is that on the next slide there? Yeah, so you can go, since it's a free resource and you have access to all of the other curriculum bases in ASSISTments, you are able to create customizable practice problem sets where you can pick and choose the questions that you want from certain assignments. Say there's, especially common on the IM practice problem sets, they'll have review questions from previous learning units or previous learning standards that just kind of help reinforce ideas from the previous units that they might need for this, but that work might be redundant for some students that don't need that, or it's unnecessary because some students are already challenged with what they have. So you can pick and choose which problems that you would like to assign to those students by either making a custom practice problem set or taking problems off of the already pre-built problem sets and then assign those directly to individual students that are synced with your Google Classroom.
I was going to demo for just a second.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, so you can see. So absolutely. So I'm already in a problem set here. And as Dylan was saying, you can go through and if you want to pick and choose. So I'm in some practice problems for lesson 2 within the 7th grade curriculum. I am in IM right now, but the same applies to IM 360. Um, and you can go through and look and choose which of those you want to choose. So if you don't want to assign the entire problem set, you don't have to. You can deselect up here. That will give you the ability to then select which problems you want. You can select parts of problems or you can select whole problems. If you're an IM educator, you know they love a multi-part problem. So if you want to reduce down to two parts of a problem, one part of a problem, that's totally up to you as well. And then once you do that, instead of assigning directly to a class, you can add them to a problem set. So you can create a new problem set or you can add to a problem set that you've already created. So if I go ahead and this is not a 4th grade subject, but I'm going to add it to that problem set anyways, just as a demo. Um, I'm going to save that question that I just selected to my problem set. Done. And then I can go over here and hit my problem set on my left hand menu here and find that problem set and it will have added that to it. So wherever that 4th grade problem set is, there's a bunch of them in here. I created this one the other day. So there's 3rd grade problems from a number of different assignments here. Um, and then in addition, there is a problem editor if you want to actually change the problems themselves. So you can do that as well as Dylan was talking about to make it as customizable as possible. Okay. Back to you, sir.
Yeah, so kind of going, back off of what Brandy said a lot in her part of the presentation. Um, Problems that I face in the classroom that systems help me with is definitely keeping track of um, the students' work and grading it in a timely manner, and being able to get the data from the students' work to help drive my decision making in class the next day is, I think, one of the best features that assessments have. Being able to really take a deep dive into the reports menu on every assignment and see all those things, like how much time they spent on the assignment, how many guesses they took on each question, or how many hints they requested on every question. Really lets me kind of target where the misconceptions might be. What did the students really struggle with? Why did they struggle with it? If I just have a stack of papers in front of me, that doesn't really tell me anything until I look at every single one of them individually. And Assistment's ability to gather all that data instantaneously and give it to me in an easy to read format truly does help me know where to go with my math students the next day on our next assignment, our next lesson. I think I'm ready for the next slide. I particularly like looking at time spent on the assignment because there's some benefit to giving kids the assignments on their computer. It's eco-friendly. There's less paper to print off. You have less things to keep up with, but there's also the ability for students to practice academic dishonesty with cheating on assignments or Google Answers or using an AI assessment to look at their screen and get the answer for them instantaneously. I like looking over at the far right side of the assignment report and looking at their time that they spent on the assignment. That gives me a lot of insight into how did that student do. If that's not a student that I usually know is going to turn in 100% on an assignment, but magically they turned in a 100 and they spent 3 minutes on the problem or on the whole entire set of 10 questions, that doesn't really add up. The math doesn't really math right there. So it really helps me know that, that student probably needs to have that assignment on paper the next time, or we need to discuss why were they able to do that so well when yesterday it was a real struggle for them. um, I love looking at the performance summary at the top of the reports menu. I pull the report summary up in front of my students, and I'll have them pull up their practice problem sets, and I'll ask them, "Hey, what do you guys think about those colors on those questions? What does that tell you about how we did as a class?" And that really helps them open up and feel comfortable saying, I really struggled on that question, and I can see others did, and this is what I thought. And we use that to really drive the discussion as to why was that question hard? What were the misconceptions? Why did I think that was the right answer? I really love using that resource for them. It really takes a lot of the pressure off of them to feel like they have to be perfect all the time when they see other people got it wrong too. I also love grading their open response questions in front of them, in front of each other, with anonymizing their names. It takes the stress off of knowing who wrote what. I pulled up a screenshot and attached a screenshot of one of my assignments from some real work that students turned in. The student at the top, they got a 0 on their response because where it starts just is not clear enough. It's not enough information. Versus the student 2 items below them turned in a very detailed response that had all the information we needed that warranted a 4. So I use those responses and let the other students read those responses so they can know the expectations of what I have for them in their work in the class, and what does successful work look like to them. How can I model that for myself? Can I elevate my responses to get to that level 4 category? It also helps me combat the misconceptions of maybe why did I get the question wrong in the first place, if we can all discuss it together.
Perfect. And to reach that, you would go into your report, and where we see blue, that is an open response question. Then click on that question, and that'll bring up that um, picture that we were just looking at, where a teacher can score the entire class's open response and also show it to them to have that discussion.
You can also deliver your feedback to them on that question with the teacher comment tool on the
Yep.
page as well.
So, And as you populate responses, it'll help you as well populate those for that particular assignment. All right. Oh, I'm sorry.
I think my call to action, pretty similar to the theme of the night, that assessments just really helps close a lot of the gaps in the classroom for me as an educator, facilitating their growth in a timely manner, helping close the equity gap of giving students what they need in the classroom and making sure they have access to rigorous work without overwhelming them and not meeting their accommodations in the right kind of way. But having that transparency and grading really helps me really guide my students to where I want them to go. I have high expectations in my classroom. I have high expectations for their work, and I know that they're all capable of doing that. If we all can just keep taking one step forward at a time, we can reach our goal.
Awesome. Thank you so much. There's some really incredible ideas in there. And we will go to Miss Duty.
Hi, I'm Miss Duty. Like we said before, I work in Baltimore County. It's right next to Baltimore City. A lot of people know where that is. I teach both Accelerated 6 and Accelerated 7 in my building. I'm currently the only one that teaches those contents. When I first started assistance last year, though, I did teach a Standard 6. A picture there is of my classroom. It's not perfectly tidy, but it's honest. I do a lot of collaboration and I have kids work in pretty decent sized groups because a huge part of the IM curriculum is the discourse and the discussion. And I really try to facilitate that like open conversation, comfortable atmosphere for the kids. So my routine with assessments, my number one all-time favorite thing is skill builders. I have been raving about them since I started using them. So when I use skill builders, the first thing I do is I sit down with my curriculum and my test, and I identify every single standard that goes into that unit. And I mean every single one. And then I use the skill builders that assessments made, and I assign every single standard day one of the unit and have it all due on the day of the test. So it's good for homework if your students have access to computers at home. We just switched, unfortunately, to carts. So it's optional homework for my kids, but I make sure that they have it in their routine as an option. What I like about it is that the kids have an option between accelerating themselves. So I have students who sit there and do the whole unit before we learn it. And it lets them work ahead and at their own pace and self discover a lot of our math. Or it's great for students to go back and have extra practice. Next slide, please.
I'm gonna go and
So,
show where that is real quick. So from the find and assign screen, if you do want to find skill builders, they are right here towards the bottom. And for Miss Judy, we would be in this range here. And then it is by strand, so you can go in and see the standards that are aligned to that strand. And I'm going back to you.
oh,
All right.
so a skill builder is every day they get 10 problems. And the most important thing is that they have to get 3 in a row correct without hints. And what's really nice is when I first started using it, it didn't have that little pop-up at the beginning that explains those directions or the cute little stars in the corner. With these updates, it's made it even more accessible for my students to do it independently. And what's really nice is they actually get competitive about it and they get really excited whenever they get a green check mark or once they start getting 3 in a row correct. But it's back to that. It is both support for my lower students and it is acceleration for my higher students. My higher students might blow through this quickly or they might struggle a little bit before they get 3 in a row correct, but my lower students might end up doing 10, 20, or 30 practice problems before they hit that 3 in a row. But because it continues to provide new practice problems that aren't in my curriculum and have hints and feedback, it's really great for the students because they're able to learn more about self-studying as well. So when they start to get stuck on skill builders, I always tell them, go back to the problems where you got all your hints. Use those as notes, take those notes, apply them to this problem. And I think that's also important just for skills in life. Like when you get older, if they go off to college, it's important to be able to know how to look at something and apply it to another place. So once they have that skill, it's really nice and they start to get the hang of skill builders more. And they really do get so excited. I'll have kids run up to me with their device and be like, look, I got three in a row, or look, I got it on my first try. Um, and that's true with all the data. They have a little wheel at the end that they get for their assignments, and they actually enjoy looking at it and discussing it with me and like pointing things out. So the other main thing I want to talk about is card sorts. So if you don't teach the IM curriculum, card sorts are this thing that you have to print and then you have to cut out all the cards and have a set for every table and then they match the cards physically. And I don't print things. I don't print things. I was just counting with my students earlier today. I think there are 4 things so far I've printed this year, and I think I'll stop at 5. Um, it's just I hate paper copies. It makes a mess. The kids lose them. It's just not worth it. What's nice about the online card sorts is that the kids can't lose the cards from class to class. No one has duplicates. Everything's nice, neat, and in order. And then they get immediate feedback on that card sort. But also on my end, I get immediate feedback. So a card sort, I would normally have to walk around and kind of eyeball like however they laid it out and then have them verbally or write down and explain to me like why they put the cards in those orders. And instead, I'm having them do it on the computer. They get immediate feedback. And then I say, great, now on a piece of paper or now in your book, write down the, like, have a discussion about the ones you got wrong and then see if you can figure out what the correct way is. And sometimes I'll even assign it a second time and be like, see if you can do better the second time after you've taken notes, which is fantastic. And then I have that data forever. I don't have to have a clipboard while I'm walking around writing down all these notes. I can go back 3 weeks later and be like, how did they do on this particular assignment? And I still have it. So, again, no paper. My biggest outcomes and my biggest, I forget what fancy words you guys were using earlier. I like to keep things pretty simple, but the biggest things I get from assessments is I get to have more student independence when they're on their devices because of the hints, because it confirms when they're correct and is really scaffolded well with how it responds to the students when they need help. That ownership they have over the practice and the excitement they have about getting things right and how the responsibility is really on them. I'm not giving you a grade. You are earning that grade. You are finding the way to find the answer. And then more collaboration and discourse. It's a huge part of IM, but it's also just a huge part of the way I run my classroom. I really think that being able to verbalize and discuss and essentially teach to other students what you are understanding is an excellent way to show that you understand the content. And then that's all I have.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you, Caitlin, for putting in a explanation there. Um, the card sorts, I know they can be hard to find. They are in those student-facing tasks. If you use IM 360, they are not there. We can't publish them. But in the IM curriculum, there are some of them in those student-facing tasks. So those tasks that they give you to do in class with your students that are not like the practice problems, that's where they are found. And Sarah is right. If you've ever taught it, they are keen on giving you things to cut out and give to your students. Uh, and then they end up on the floor and you get no paper clips back ever. So it's a great thing to have them online. It's really, really helpful. So we have about 10 minutes to do a Q&A. And I saw we had, I think, one question from Caitlin, and it was up here for Brandy, and of course, anybody else who would like to answer. Brandy, are you still with us? I know you've got a lot going on.
If not, I would be curious to hear from everybody.
Okay.
I just wrote it
Um,
right after her presentation, but I would love to hear from everybody.
Perfect. Um, Caitlin asked just to hear more about how you use the data in parent-teacher conferences. Like, what do you show parents? And then also curious about how students respond when you share the data with them. So whoever, I know Dylan, you talked about sharing the data with them specifically? Maybe you want to answer?
Yeah, I do both. I do show off the data at parent teacher conferences if parents ask, like, why is my student really struggling, or what happened on this one assignment where they got a 6 out of 10. I'll pull up the report and I'll show them exactly how their student did. How many hints did they get? How many wrong answers did they put in this question before they got the right answer? It kind of helps the parents see that, my student is working, but obviously there's a misconception on the problem that the student was trying to accomplish. Um, but I only show that whenever they ask or whenever it's needed. Um, the students are generally happy whenever you show off the report in front of the class. Um, it, Sometimes it can lead to some playful banter between students, but it just kind of leads to some competition between them. They're all competitive and they all want to do a really good job, and it kind of helps keep the whole class accountable. If everybody, if their friends know that they're struggling on the assignment, well, then friends can go and help each other um, with the work or with the misconception or figure out what's wrong with that. But no one is ever upset. It honestly, I think it motivates them to get the answer more correct the next time because they don't they don't want to be the one that has it wrong in front of everybody. And they all figure it out eventually. Oh, that was so and so's response. And at least in my class with my rapport that I've built with my students, um, they're all comfortable with it. There's no shame about getting a question wrong. There's no shame in having the wrong answer. It's just one way we learn how to not do the question and how to not respond to that response.
Perfect. Thank you. Um, I see Sarah is responding, but if you could, so we can get it on the recording, if you could respond
Yeah, I
on
just
the
wanted to make
question.
sure I wrote it down. So,
Yeah.
she asked about manipulatives, and
Yeah.
I really do think that's similar to my card sorts, except so like if you are doing so for middle school math, it would probably be um like prisms and pyramids and turning them into nets and like how they connect and things like that. What shape does this make? For elementary school, I know that geez, it's been a minute since my training, but like I know there's a lot more manipulatives, but I think it goes with that whole like the kid has the book open and a worksheet and a pencil and the manipulatives. And so you have to go and circulate and monitor the students with the manipulatives to make sure they're using them appropriately and that the groups are working together and that also they're getting the right answer and finding the time to go over it. Assessments would really simplify that because assessments would go over the answers with them, give them hints if they're stuck, and then you don't have to have a clipboard. It's recording the data for you. You can be more focused in your circulation about a particular skill you're looking out for, or if there is something that you really want to target, or students that you want to identify in the moment. It just it lightens the workload for teachers so much. And anytime I can do less work but still have comparable data out of it, I'm fully down for it.
Excellent. So I don't think we have any
I
more.
can also chime in real quick just because
Yeah,
I
go
used to
ahead.
teach elementary school and I completely agree that they need the manipulatives. Like when you're teaching addition and multiplication and subtraction, like they need the manipulatives. And I think it's just such a great pairing to have the question on assessments and have them type in the answer and get that instant feedback while still playing with the manipulatives. I see no reason to like pick one or the other. So I think, yeah, like I love that idea.
Perfect. So, I have a couple questions. Um, right now we're maybe talking or talking to people who may watch this tomorrow, who are new to assessments. What is the one piece of advice that you would give them as they are getting started with assessments? Either one.
I would definitely say so. If you go to assessments and scroll to the bottom, they didn't have these when I started, but there are two assignments you can assign that literally are like how to use assessments. And it teaches the kids how to use the math button, how to respond to certain things, how to take a picture. And it's just one of those things where like especially with the younger kids where they haven't interacted with technology as much as they have when they get to middle school or high school. It is so helpful. Even my sixth graders, sometimes I'm like, all right, let's take a beat back. When I first started teaching with assessments, I actually just picked an assignment that was like a third grade level. And I was like, go hit all the buttons. I don't care if you get it right or wrong. Go hit every button. Go hit every single button, find out what it does, tell me what it does, because it was new for me too. And so the kids were just like raising their hands, showing things and being like, look at this and look at that. And I had Go Guardian running. So I'd be like, hey, hold that there. I'm going to put it on the main screen. And now there's an actual assignment that does it for you, which again, love not having to make my own. That just goes step by step through all the different tools that the kids will access while they're on assessments.
Dylan, did you have an answer?
Yeah, I'd encourage any new user to assessments just to really play around with it and go through every single resource available to you. You have access to every single thing that's on assessments, whether it's all the IM V360 stuff or the IM K12, the Eureka Open Up, the problem solving set, skill builders. I didn't know any of that stuff existed until I got in there and started looking at it and realizing, hey, even though I don't teach out of that, even though I'm in Arkansas, I can still use the stuff from the Louisiana State test or the California stuff. I mean, it's the same math. It's maybe not exactly aligned to the Arkansas State learning standards that we have here in our state, but it's still going to be close to the same. It's still more practice that you can give to the students, and don't be afraid to use something new.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you guys so much. We are going to go ahead and start wrapping up. Um, Sherry just said she appreciated the advice to not have practice problems graded, so they have to use their hands if they need them. It's awesome. So they see it as a growth opportunity, not as a graded opportunity, is often very helpful, so that they can see it as you're just trying to help and get them to learn as opposed to it's punitive for some reason, right? With that grade. So it's awesome. Caitlin also talked about how she spent her life with a clipboard. And I think every teacher has had that experience where you have every kid's name and you're taking notes. I definitely have been there. Or sometimes I had boxes and I'd check off things. Yes. So I think we have all been there. So really, really great presentations and advice and feedback today. I really, really appreciate it. Just a couple things as we do wrap up here. Just a couple getting started guides here. And I will also send these out in the email and the follow up here. But both of these, one is for if you're using Google Classroom, the other is for if you are using Assistant or if you're using Canvas. And both of them have great resources in them. Week one plans, if you're just getting started, like we just talked about, or if you have particular ways that you want to use assessments, like the in-class practice or the cool down, there is a routine pathways document in there as well. So you can look at what activity type you might want to use it for, and then see how you could do that, even how much time you may need to do that. And so, my hope for today, and I do have those links for the um, guide. I will put that right now in the chat. Here's the Google guide. So my hope for today was that everybody gained some kind of strategy or new idea that they can use in their classroom tomorrow using assessments. I think our presenters today did an amazing job of doing that so that we can go in tomorrow and use that card sort, find that card sort and use it, or start looking at start looking at those open response problems and how we grade them and having those conversations with our students. So really amazing on the ground advice that we can use very quickly. Um, and we're gonna skip that one since we only have a couple people here, and we really, really appreciate you being here, Sherry and Megan, in real time. It's very, very much appreciated. If you do have a moment, for some reason I put 2024, but 2025, October 23rd, 2025. If you do have a moment, Sherry and Megan, I would really appreciate if you could give us some feedback. And I'm going to put this in the chat as well. This is just a quick survey to see how you liked the presentation today. It just helps us out. We do look at it, look at all of our feedback to help us moving forward. What can we do better? What did participants like? So if you just have one moment, I would really, really appreciate if you could give us that feedback so we could use it moving forward. We want to make sure that we tailor things the best we can to the needs of teachers who are using assessments. So I really appreciate that feedback. Other than that, I think we are good. If you would, Sherry or Megan, like to reach out to me, this is my email address. I'm always happy to help, answer questions, provide advice, whatever that needs to be a thought partner. I'm definitely happy to help in any way that I can. And I just want to thank my presenters one more time. You guys were awesome. Thank you for doing the work over the last 2 weeks to put this together, helping me out, dealing with my emails. I really, really, really appreciate it. And I appreciate your time so, so much. I'm going to stop our recording.